Good morning, everyone. So today we're going to work on baby rolls, baby roll stretches. I like the baby roll stretch because I find it to be a really good whole body fascial stretch. Metaphor I like to think of with the baby roll is imagine you have a wool sweater, except that wool sweater is more like a bodysuit. So it wraps around all your fingers, all your toes, covers your whole body. And that wool sweater, wool bodysuit was put in the wash, put in the dryer, so it's all like crinkled up. So when you put it on, it's completely distorted. It's tight in certain places, it doesn't move well in other places. And we want to work to open up, stretch, and kind of bring that wool bodysuit back into alignment the way it was originally knit for us. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to get really big, open up, spread, and go through these nice big baby roll stretches in all directions in order to realign the weaving of those fibers. And that metaphor of the wool bodysuit is a metaphor for our fascia. The way we move, especially if we move out of balance, if I move more in one direction and less in the other direction, my fascia is going to wrap just like it got thrown into a dryer. It's going to get twisted up into those directions that I move more in and less in the directions I don't move well in. So baby roll stretches, what we're getting into today. Let's get started. We're going to start in a standing position, getting into our crocodile breath first. So making our nice big C shapes with our hands, hands going below rib cage, above hip bone, thumbs in the back, index fingers in the front. Nice inhale in through the nose, exhale out through the mouth. As we inhale, imagine we're blowing up that abdominal wall like a crocodile or like a balloon. And I want to feel that expansion in all directions. So I want to feel that abdominal wall fill and push out into my index fingers, into my thumbs in the low back, and out through the side. And with each breath, we're going to see if we can inflate that balloon a little bit bigger and wider. And we'll get about 5, 6, up to 8 nice breaths. Again, feel that abdominal wall expand a little bit more with each breath. Exhale. You can even allow your hands to cinch in order to create a little bit more resistance for that inhale breath. Notice shoulders and neck if you're feeling tight, tension and tightness restricting. As you inhale, on that exhale, allow that tension to relax. See if you can feel those shoulders drop down and back. And now we're going to go ahead and pick up our staff. We're going to do some shoulder mobility, some neck mobility. We're also going to bring out the wedge and do some foot mobility, and then we'll get down onto the floor. So with our staff, I want to get a nice shoulder width grip on the staff. Imagine we're trying to break or bend that staff. So I want to actively put pressure into that staff like I'm trying to bend it. I want to feel that pressure spiral through the elbows, moving up towards the ceiling, as well as feeling the shoulder blades pack down and back. And we're going to start with coming back into that breath and getting into a little bit of pelvic tilts with it. So on your inhale, let that breath move a little bit more towards the belly. Pelvis is going to tilt forward so we get a sway in the low back. Exhale, drawing that navel up and in as we scoop our tailbone forward. And I want to think of that tailbone like it's your hand. As I exhale, that tailbone is turning back like I'm trying to turn and point towards the wall behind me. As I exhale, I want to scoop and reach that tailbone like I'm trying to touch the wall out in front. And I'm seeing how much range of motion can I get without going into pinch or pain in the low back. If the low back feels tight and restricted, go slow and easy. Don't force it. And start to notice that how as we inhale, pelvis tilts forward, that belly opens up, our rib kind of sticks out. And as we exhale and scoop, rib cage starts to draw down and our core should start to tense up. Now we're going to bring in our staff. As we inhale, on our next exhale, as we draw in and scoop, we're bringing elbows up, pulling those elbows to the ears and seeing how far close to the ears can we get them to come at the same time that we're actively scooping. Inhale, shoulders get to soften forward, to fill that belly up, little sway in the back. Exhale, scoop as we draw back. We're doing nice 5 to 10 breaths. Keep that active bend in the staff. I'm still spiraling those elbows. My shoulders are still packing down and back as I scoop and pull. And with each one, I'm seeing if we can get a little bit more range out of those elbows pulling back, but doing so without losing that scoop and core through the pelvis and the abdominals. We'll let our arms drop down. We're going to move the staff to behind the back. Palms are facing away from the body. I'm still bending or breaking that staff. So I still want to feel those elbow pits spiral forward. Shoulder blades are going to pack. Chest should start to open up in the front. Nice inhale into our crocodile breath. Exhale as we lift those elbows up to the ceiling. Inhale, let them soften. Exhale, lift and squeeze. And as I'm lifting and squeezing, I'm also actively trying to bend the staff away from the body. I want to feel those elbows still trying to spiral forward. Feel that long bone of the humerus kind of spinning back as we lift. That should kind of open up the chest even more as we're lifting, getting a nice little stretch through the front. After 5 to 10 of those, we're going to flip our palms so that they're facing forward. Everything else is going to be the same. Nice inhale into the belly. Exhale, drawing navel in and scoop as you lift elbows up and bending the staff away from the body, getting that nice opening up through the chest. This one is really good for noticing, do you feel more tension through the front of one shoulder than you do on the other? That can be an indication of some bicep tension, tightness, especially through the long head of bicep tendon. And that is usually an indication of some shoulder instability. So good thing to kind of pay attention to. All right, now we're going to bring the staff back in front. We're going to get a nice wide grip on the staff. And we're seeing how far can we bring that staff up, over, and back. I don't want to force it. So if this is, we're just kind of seeing how far can you reach back, coming all the way back forward. If your shoulder mobility is good and smooth, you'll find that you may be able to go all the way through to get to the back hip and all the way back forward. However, if you're not able to do that right now, I don't want you to force it. I want you to find that point before you get to pain, moving it through. I also want to avoid walking it through, where you're moving it through one shoulder and then the other shoulder. I want to find that even point where both shoulders move into it and then come right back forward. And if you're finding that this is tight and restricted and you're not able to go all the way through, then this would be a good movement to do a little bit more frequently, doing it daily and even multiple times through the day. All right, we're going to move the staff to behind our back, palms facing backwards. And now we're going to get into some neck mobility. So with the staff, I want to actively reach down to the floor, pulling the elbows like I'm trying to touch them together and feeling those shoulder blades pack down and back. I want to avoid shoulders wanting to shrug while I'm doing neck mobility. So I'm actively pushing the staff down to the floor to keep those shoulder blades downwardly pressed. And from here, we're going to get into some checking our blind spots. Now, before we get into this, if you find that you get dizzy, lightheaded, you have a little bit of vestibular imbalance, then I would prefer that you do this in a chair, sitting down. You can still use a staff, or you can grab the sides of the chair instead of a staff in order to keep those shoulder blades down. I don't want you doing a lot of neck mobility if you feel balanced and unstable while you're standing. So, nice inhale in through the nose. And as we exhale, we're slowly looking over our right shoulder, squeezing into it. Inhale back to center. Exhale as we slowly look over our left shoulder. And again, just like we do in our inverted position for neck mobility, I want to move from the chin. I'm trying to see how far can I get the chin over the crest of the shoulder. I want to avoid tilting and reaching more with my forehead or with my eyes, which tends to kind of happen if we're not, especially if we don't have a mirror to be able to visually see ourselves. So I want to actively reach from that chin. That will get that mobility a little bit deeper down into the neck. And notice how this feels looking over your left shoulder compared to your right shoulder. After we get about 5 to 10 each side, now we're going to do some tilt and lift. So I want to lightly tilt, like I'm dropping my left ear towards my left shoulder, but it's just a light tilt, not a heavy tilt. Once I get there, opposite ear, I'm actively reaching up to the ceiling, and the same side shoulder is reaching down towards the floor. I want to feel that light traction. Inhale as we come to center, exhale as we go to the other side. With each one, I want to feel that nice traction stretch, kind of lateral, to the side, front of the neck. Notice, is it a little tighter, more restricted, harder to get into on the left side or the right side? My neck mobility feels pretty good compared to normal. It's usually a lot tighter, but I still have a little bit more tension on this left side than I do on the right. Good. So next, we're going to get into our glide. Now, this movement can be super challenging, especially if you don't have a mirror. It's not unusual to have good mobility to one side and poor mobility to the other side. We want to see if we can keep this nice glide. I want to have cheekbones moving on the same plane. So I don't want my head to tilt to where one cheekbone raises up higher, and I don't want to rotate where I'm turning my head into it. Nice glide, reach that cheekbone to the shoulder, bringing as we exhale, inhale back to center, and exhale as we move to the other side. This particular movement might look a little weird and unusual, but is a great movement to build up. And if you're struggling with it, then it's a movement functionally that I want to really work on to rebuild. Again, notice the difference. How does it feel moving to the right side compared to the left side? Do you have more mobility? Is it easier? Do you get further? Do you find that one side your head wants to tilt or turn and the other one it wants to stay straight? Those are really good assessment points. All right, we're going to keep our staff and now we're going to pull out our wedge. See if there's a way for me to get into this and keep my whole body in the frame. and have enough. That looks pretty good. All right. So wedge is not or the staff is not mandatory. If you find that you have balance issues, I want you to go ahead and keep the staff in hand. I'm going to keep it in hand just so I'm showing how it can be used. We're going to get a nice wide stance with our feet, and we're going to take one foot and bring that foot slightly forward, shifting weight onto that foot. So I want about 75% of our weight on that front leg so that you feel that load moving through the front of that quad into the foot. We're going to spread the toes and the ball of that foot as wide as you can, and then lightly lift the heel off the floor. With that heel lifting off the floor, I don't want it lifting high. I want it to just barely lift so that you can like slide a piece of paper underneath it. So weight is shifted, heel is slightly lifted. I want to feel that 75% of weight in that foot so you can feel that load stress through the quad, through the ball of the foot. Maintaining ball of the big toe all the way out to the ball of the big toe. We're going to start with some rotations through with the knee. So I'm slightly internally rotating that knee, seeing how far can I go without that pinky toe, ball of the pinky toe lifting up off the floor. I want to keep it grounded down. As I externally rotate, same thing with the ball of the big toe. I don't want that ball of the big toe to lift off the floor. I want to keep it loaded and grounded. And if you're doing this well, keeping that forefoot grounded, if you watch your knee and you watch your heel, as your knee turns out, your heel is going to turn in. And as your knee turns in, your heel is going to turn out. We're basically taking the foot and we're wringing it out like a washcloth and getting all these joints through that midfoot area to mobilize. After we get about 5 to 10 reps, we're going to switch to the other side. So wide stance, bringing the left foot forward slightly, shifting weight, 75% of our body weight onto that leg, spread the ball of the foot, lightly lift the heel, feel that weight and load through the quad into the ball of the foot, not so much on that back leg. Starting with that external rotation, moving into that internal rotation. And this is a really good assessment point. Notice if this is harder to maintain a grounded forefoot on the right side compared to the left side. My left foot is generally stiffer. It's usually stuck more in a supinated position. It's harder for me to maintain grounding especially through the ball of the pinky toe side compared to my right foot, which I find interesting because my right knee is the one that I've had the most surgeries on. I expect most of the problems to be on the right side, but it's actually the left side that, because it's more stable, it compensates more for the right side. So most of my stiffness, tension, discomfort is actually on the opposite side of the body from where I've had the most damage. Once we get 5 to 10, we're going to switch back to the other foot, bringing that right foot forward again. And now we're going to bring out our wedge. So with the wedge, I want to slide that wedge in at about 45 degrees to the big toe line. So as it comes underneath that big toe, the wedge will go underneath the ball of the big toe, ball of the second toe, and a little bit underneath the ball of the third toe. But the ball of the fourth and fifth toes are still on the floor. We're going to do all the same things that we just did without the wedge. Shifting weight so that 70% of our body weight is on that foot. Spread the ball of the foot wide, lightly lift the heel, and then we're working that same internal to external rotation, keeping that grounded foot. And again, I want to feel that nice wringing out effect through the arch of the foot, through the midfoot area. You also might find that this kind of fatigues the foot a little bit, which I think is going to be, that's a positive sign. That means we're getting into some of that intrinsic musculature of the foot that it's hard to get into. We want that area to move. Once we get 5 to 10 reps, we're going to keep the wedge underneath that foot, We're going to bring our opposite foot forward, shift our weight onto that opposite left foot. I'm still focusing on the foot with the wedge underneath it. So I got 70% of my weight into my left leg. I'm now actively reaching my right heel down to the floor, actively reaching that knee straight back. We can even slightly try to externally spiral that knee out and away. The more I have my weight shifted and I have that reach through the heel and the knee, we should feel a little bit of a stretch through the front of that back hip. And now we're going to do some big toe mobility. From here, I'm going to soften that back knee, plant through the ball of the big toe, and drive the heel up to the ceiling, feeling that stretch at the ball of the big toe. And then I'm actively reaching that heel back to the floor, actively straightening the knee. But I want to do so without shifting my weight onto it. I want to keep that weight shifted forward. So nice slow plant, driving the heel up to the ceiling, and then reaching back actively with that knee. See if you can come back to feel that stretch in the front of the hip, and then feel that tightness, tension, mobility stretch at the foot. Want to make sure that we're not pushing into pain. I'm driving down lightly. I'm not forcing that big toe joint. If there's pain in that big toe joint, then you need to back off. Then we're going to switch sides. So taking the wedge out, left foot is now forward, sliding that wedge underneath 45 degrees to the big toe line, spreading the ball of the foot, lightly lifting the heel. Again, 75% of our weight is shifted forward. And coming back to those knee internal and external rotation. Keeping that grounded foot through the forefoot or through the ball of the big toe all the way out to the ball of the pinky toe. Notice if one foot feels tighter, more restricted in this movement, especially with the wedge, because the wedge is kind of preloading that big toe joint, especially as we go into internal rotation. I feel a bigger stretch to the outside of this left foot. That's where a lot of my chronic tension is through into the foot. Once we get 5 to 10 reps, we're going to walk, slide back so I'm staying in frame. We're going to walk that back foot forward, shifting our weight. Now we're actively reaching our left heel down and back, actively reaching the back of the knee to the wall. Again, 75% of my weight is shifted forward. So I'm feeling that nice little stretch through the front of the hip. Then softening the knee, planting through the ball of the foot, slowly driving the heel up to the ceiling, and then reaching that heel back down, actively straightening the knee, and doing so without shifting my weight back. I want to keep that weight forward, going back and forth. Notice, does this feel tighter and more restricted on this foot than it did on the other foot? The thing I'm noticing with my left foot is that it's harder to keep the ball of my pinky toe side down, grounded. I drive more into that big toe. My forefoot on my left foot is is not as wide. It's a little more narrow, largely because my foot is stuck more in supination. And once we get 5 to 10 reps on both sides, we'll go ahead and move the wedge and we can set our staff down. And we're going to come to the floor and we're going to get into a nice V-sit. So V-sit, I want to get nice and wide, actively reaching the knees down to the floor, actively pulling the top of the feet back to the shins, palms coming down to the floor, grounded, spiraling the elbow pits out and away so that we're nice and tall spine. And we're going to get into our rotations of the knees. Slowly externally rotating like you're trying to touch your kneecap to the outside floor. and then slowly turning the kneecaps in like you're trying to touch to the inside of floor. And with each one, see if you can get a little bit further with the kneecaps, getting that nice external spiral. I want to focus more on the kneecaps and less on the feet. If I reach through the feet, I can get those feet to reach a whole lot, but my knee doesn't move, which means I'm not getting quite as much movement in the deep in that hip socket. And that's really where I want to mobilize. So focusing on the knees, if the knees are turning more, that whole long bone of the femur is moving more all the way up into the socket. This is a good one to notice. How much rotation, internal and external, do you have on the left side compared to the right side? My left knee does not turn in quite as much as my right knee does. I'd say the left knee externally rotates just a little bit more than the right knee does. So I have a little bit of a rotational shift through the long bones of the legs, moving towards that left side. We're going to stay in that V sit. Now I want to get a little bit of forward fold. So nice inhale in through the nose. On our exhale, keeping hands and shoulders square, we're sliding those hands forward on the floor. Inhale, bringing it all the way back up. As we fold, I want to keep the spine nice and tall and long, only reaching as far as I'm able to keep that tall spine. I don't want to drop head and round the back. I want to feel this more in that back line of the legs. And notice if you feel it more on the right side compared to the left side. With each one, we're seeing if we can get a little bit further without forcing it. I don't want to go into pain. This should feel good and juicy. After we start getting a little loosened up, we can start to deviate side to side. But I want to try to keep those hands square with the shoulders. So I want to turn shoulders and hands together as I reach a little bit to the right. Coming back, same, reaching to the left. I'm still actively reaching my knees down. I'm still actively pulling the tops of the feet back as I get into this. And now I'm bringing my awareness not just to the back line of the legs, but also into my low back. As I reach to the left, do I feel that more on that left hamstring? Do I feel it more in my low back compared to when I reach to the right? And we can continue to slowly open up how far we're reaching side to side so that we're now kind of reaching to the heels. We can even go a little bit beyond the heels, kind of exploring all that range of motion. How does it feel when you reach to the left side compared to the right side? Is one side tighter, stiffer, achier, hard to get into than the other side? All right, now we're getting in, shifting into our shin box position. Left knee is forward, left hand is grounded outside of the hip, spiraling that elbow pit out and away. We're going to start to do some nice little hip openers, lifting that knee up to the ceiling on our exhale. Inhale, slowly bringing it back to the floor. And I'm just going to focus on about 5 reps for each of the shin box to get us through it so we can get into our baby rolls. After we do 5 on this side, we're going to do what our transition I want to do is a floss through. So I'm going to lift that knee and I want to imagine there's a piece of string from the inside of this knee that attaches to the other side, inside of the opposite knee. As I pull, opening, all of a sudden I get tension in that string And I want to maintain that tension as I bring my opposite hand down. My right knee is now pulling that left knee up. And I want to keep that tension strong by opening. I'm reaching away with that left knee as I'm reaching away with the right knee. Once the right knee hits the ground, then the left knee can come down. And we're going to do our 5 knee openers on this side. Nice, slow on the exhale. Inhale, bringing it back down to the floor. Notice if this hip feels tighter, more restricted. Are you able to go as high? Is there a limit in that range of motion on one side compared to the other? Once we get 5, we're going to do that same floss through. Open, open, open until it can't open and it starts to pull that opposite knee with it. Keep that tension in the string until that left knee hits the ground, and we're back to our starting point. Now we're going to get into our breath into that back hip. I want to imagine that inhale breath. We're breathing in, letting it fill up the belly. It's almost like we're filling up a bowling ball. And as that bowling ball gets filled up, the weight of that ball drops into the bowl of that back pelvis, reaching that back pelvis to the floor, but doing so without shifting our weight into it. So I kind of want to keep that weight shifted forward. Inhale, feel that back hip reach to the floor. Exhale, it lifts up. We're reaching that hip bone forward, and then we're actively scooping into it. Just like when we started in our standing, I want to imagine that tailbone like a hand, and I'm shifting so that I'm pointing those fingers, trying to reach out in front. Inhale, I'm reaching that hand back towards the floor. Exhale, scooping into it. I want to see if we can feel a nice stretch through the front of the hip. Can we feel some contraction in the glute? Once we get 5 breaths, we're going to do our floss through. Nice open, open, open. Keep that tension between the legs until we get to the other side. When we get to that other side, grounded palm, spiraled elbow, tall spine. Inhale, filling up that bowling ball. Let it drop into that back hip, reaching it to the floor. Exhale, that hip lifts off the floor, actively scoops forward. Can you feel that stretch through the front? Remember, I want to avoid shifting weight. I'm not trying to push that hip down. My weight is actually shifted forward, and it's the weight of that breath that's reaching that hip to the floor. These are great assessment points. I'm looking at what is the range of motion of this back hip? How close can it get to the floor? How far up can it go? And if it's different on this hip compared to the other hip, then this is a big deal. I want to work on mobilizing this hip more in order to get them in better balance. My left hip generally is my more tight hip. Again, going back to what we found in the foot, related to the opposite knee. Well, it actually feels quite loose today compared to normal. Once we get our 5, doing our floss, open, 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 let it pull that opposite leg across till we get back to our starting point. Coming right back into that breath, filling up that bowl. But now as we exhale, lift, scoop, locking into that back hip, just like we did it before. Now we're adding our reach and rotation. With that reach and rotation, seeing how far can I reach my fingertips, really extending away as I rotate through the spine. Inhale, bringing it all the way back, feeling the weight of that breath fill up that bowl, dropping that hip to the floor. Exhale, hip lifts, scoops, lock in first, and then continue to reach into our rotation. Once we get 5, flossing through, open that knee, nice slow, keep that tension in the string, bringing it to the other side. Same thing. Inhale, feel that breath fill up that back bowl. Exhale, lift, scoop, and then continue to reach and rotate. As we're moving back and forth, going slow, notice how the hips are slowly loosening up, becoming more limber, getting a little bit easier, especially on our transition floss through. You might notice that that's starting to be a little bit easier. It might still be tight, but I like to pay attention to those improvements. A little bit of improvement every day becomes a massive improvement over time with our, especially with how we move and feel on a day-to-day basis. Once we get 5, doing our nice little floss through back, and I'm finding like my hip is opening up a lot more compared to the very beginning when we started, feeling a lot looser. Now we're going to get into our side body. So back in that starting position, the hand that has been on the ground is now coming off the floor, bringing it up. I want to bring forearm parallel to the ceiling. We're going to continue to inhale into that back bowl, feeling it drop to the reach to the floor. Exhale, it's lifting up, scooping, and then we're going to reach this opposite elbow up to the ceiling. It's like I'm trying to touch my elbow on the ceiling. I want to feel that length all the way through the floor on this side. Inhale. Again, let it fill up. We're softening that shoulder, letting it fill up that back bowl, reaching it to the floor. Exhale, that lifts. Actively scoop. I want to lock in that back hip. Reach through the elbow. With each one, I'm seeing if I can get a little higher through that elbow. Can I reach a little deeper through the same side hip? I want to do so without dropping my opposite shoulder. I'm not doing a side bend. I'm elevating and depressing through the floor on this side. Once we get to 5, we'll bring that hand down, flossing through, nice, slow, open. Keep that tension in the string till we get to the other side. And we bring that hand up, forearm flush with the ceiling. Inhale into that back bowl. Exhale, feel it lift, scoop, opposite side. Lifting up, trying to touch the ceiling with your elbow. This is a pretty good assessment movement. You might find that one side you're a little bit more free, you can get taller, it's a little easier to lift that elbow. The other side, you might find it's really difficult, that your hand wants to come down to the floor, that it's really stiff. If you have that type of imbalance in this position, that's a big deal. That means that this is a good assessment, and it also becomes a good movement to start working on daily in order to bring better balance. You can think of this position as a posture. And if you can do it well on one side, but not well on the other side, then posturally there is an imbalance in the body. And that is something important that we want to work on. This particular side of my shin box is the more imbalanced. It's a little bit harder for me to get into. Left hip is tighter. My right side low back are a little bit tighter. That's pretty normal for me. Once we get to 5, nice slow thread through or floss through to the other side. And now we're going to get into our folds. And with folds, we're just going to go side to side. We can continue to do the floss through. We can just do a simple windshield wiper, or you can do your thread throughs if you're familiar with that particular movement. So I want to continue to kind of breathe into that back hip. Exhale, feeling it scoop lightly as we both hands reach forward evenly. Inhale brings us all the way back up. And then we're transitioning to the other side. Again, it can be a simple windshield wiper at this point, or you can continue with that floss. Again, once we get to the side, nice exhales, both hands reach evenly. Inhale, bring it all the way back. And we get to take another breath in and out as we transition across so that we're ready to exhale on the other side. As we're going back and forth, I want to really compare, how does my right side shin box fold feel compared to the left side shin box? Is it tighter in certain places? My left side, it might be, is it tighter in that front glute? Is it tighter in the front of that back hip? Is it tighter in your low back, or maybe even up into the shoulders? How is it similar on both sides? And more importantly, how is it dissimilar? I'm going to add one more little cue on this. As we reach with our fingertips, I want you to, again, imagine that tailbone is a hand and you're reaching away with your tailbone. So I'm trying to slide that tailbone down the floor back as my hands are sliding down the full floor in the front. See if you can feel that nice length from fingertip to tailbone on each side. That may elicit a little bit more stretch, especially in the glutes. And again, you might find that that's tighter on one side than it is on the other side. Now, as we are getting into it, we're going to spend a couple more minutes in this. We're going to start to open up our shin box, allowing that back leg to slide open, continuing to reach both hands evenly. Slide that leg back as we transition, and then slide the opposite side to that same amount so that we can continue to compare side to side. With each one, we're going to open that shin box up a little bit more. A little bit more until we get closer and closer to what we would consider kind of a yoga class pigeon pose. Although, again, I'm not concerned with hitting that end range pose, especially if it's not available to our bodies right now. I'm more interested in discovering what can we do, how far can we move, and in what ways is it different on the left side compared to the right side. Because those are the things that are more important. It's more important to develop balance first, and then we can improve expand our mobility, expand our range of motion once we have achieved some levels of balance. But if we're out of balance, balance is the first thing that needs to be acquired. We'll get 2 or 3 more side to side at this point, really trying to find that nice length through that leg, seeing how open can you get. Again, I don't want to force it. We're not pushing into pain. All right. So now we're going to come onto our back, onto the floor, and we get into our baby roll stretch. So baby rolls are a really good assessment point as well. So I'm going to start more assessment wise so that we can really feel the difference of our left side compared to our right side. So I want to start with both feet, the toes pointed straight up to the ceiling. Don't let your toes roll out and away to the side. Actively keep them pointed up. And we're going to put about 5 pounds of pressure down into the floor through our heels. So I want to actively push down you should feel your glutes kind of lightly engage from that downward pressure. Hands are coming up into a nice Y position. And we're going to take a nice inhale in through the nose. And as we exhale, I'm turning my head and I'm lightly lifting my head off the floor. And I want to look to my fingertips. And I'm going to take my opposite hand and I'm matching, trying to match fingertips to fingertips as I reach. Now, as I reach, I want to maintain 5 pounds of pressure through the heels and those toes turned up. I don't want my toes to rotate and turn with me. I want to keep them turned up, pressing down. Inhale, we're coming back to the floor, turning our head to the other side, lightly lifting it off the floor and reaching across. Again, keeping those toes straight up to the ceiling. Now, as we go side to side, if you're maintaining that 5 pounds of pressure, toes straight up, you're probably going to find that reaching to one side is harder to do than reaching to the other side. It might be tighter, more restricted, just can't quite get the fingers to match. That is a good thing to notice. That's our assessment. When I reach with my right hand, it's tighter, more restricted than when I reach with my left hand. This is way easier. It's an easier movement. I'm able to get there with smoothly. The other side doesn't feel quite as smooth. And if you're feeling that is the case, then this movement is something I would encourage doing daily and maybe more than once a day. Now that we got a few reps in, we're going to switch to our feet. So I'm going to, keeping the hands up in this nice, comfortable Y position. We're going to lift one leg up and we're going to keep it elevated and we're going to reach with it like we're reaching up onto a shelf or a couch. And I want to point the toes as I reach, allowing it to roll the hip. And it's going to pull the shoulder blade off the floor, but I want to keep some contact with the back of the hand. Inhale, bringing that foot back. Exhale as I lift the other foot and reach across. Again, allowing it to pull the shoulder blade off the floor, but keeping some contact with the back of the hand. Even just the fingernails is fine, but I want to feel that nice length through those fingers as you're reaching through the toes. I'm trying to get as long as I comfortably can from toe tip out to fingertip. First thing is I want to make sure that this is not painful as well. So if you're experiencing any kind of pain, especially in that back, then you have to back off low levels of pain. If this is feeling pretty good and juicy, which is where we need to be with it, as you're reaching through toe tips, start to counter reach through the fingertips. Reach away as you point, seeing how long can you get fingertip to toe tip. And if you notice a difference, left side to right side, if one side is tighter, more restricted than the other, then again, this is a movement that I would encourage doing more frequently, as long as it is not painful. All right, now we're going to roll onto our belly. Arms are going to come up straight overhead. Palms are down on the floor. I want to keep those elbows tight to the ears. I don't want the arm to come away from the body. I want to keep it tight to the ears. Palms are down, hands are spread. We're going to lift one elbow up and we're going to turn our head lightly and look up to the ceiling as we lift. And we're going to let it roll us slightly, but notice how I'm keeping that upper arm tight to the shin, to the ear. As I roll, I don't want that arm coming away. I can get a whole lot of movement in my shoulder without moving my spine. We've already done shoulder mobility. I want to focus on that spinal mobility. So elbow stays tight. Now, as I lift and look, it's going to roll my knee. I want to allow it to slide up towards my hip, keeping it in contact with the floor. And I'm seeing how far can I roll as if I'm trying to roll over onto my back. So as I come to the other direction, I'm lifting with that ear, that elbow to the ear, keeping it tight. My right knee is sliding up, but staying in contact. And I'm rolling like I'm trying to reach the floor with my shoulder blade. Inhale, I'm coming back to the middle center. My knee slides back down as I go to the other side, allowing that knee to slide up. I'm reaching as far as I can, keeping it, that knee in contact with the floor. I don't want that knee coming up. I want to feel that nice mobility getting into the back, to the spine. Notice, how does this feel reaching on the right side compared to the left side? Now we're going to get onto, we're going to let the arms come out to the side with the palms down. We can rest the forehead softly to the floor. And we're going to actively bend one knee, pull the toes towards the shin, and we're going to lift the heel like we're trying to touch the ceiling, pushing that heel up as far as I can comfortably. On the exhale, inhale, I'm bringing it back down and switching to the other side. Now, as I lift that heel, driving it up to the ceiling, opposite leg, I want this hip to stay soft. I don't want to push through that knee to where my hip lifts up off the floor. I don't want space here. I want to keep this hip soft. I'm seeing how high can I drive that knee, which is going to activate more through the glute. Inhale as I bring it down, switch to the other side. Pull those toes in tight, reach that heel. Notice, are you able to lift your knee up higher on the right side or the left side? Also notice if there's any tightness, tension in that low back that's greater on one side than the other. I don't want this to be actively stressing the low back. If your low back is getting overly fatigued and it's getting close to pain, then I want you to back off. Now, if you have good lift, you're able to keep that leg soft, you're not getting space in the front of that hip, we can take this into more of a rotation. So as I lift that heel up, I'm now going to reach my heel to my opposite shoulder, allowing that hip to roll over. But I only want to go as far as I can without my front shoulder lifting up. So I'm going to rotate that hip back lightly on the exhale. Inhale, I'm bringing it back to the floor and switching sides. Pulling that toe in, driving the heel up, and then rolling that opposite hip. Again, only going as far as I can without the shoulder lifting up off the floor. Definitely want to make sure that we're not moving into pain. If this is at all painful on the low back, then you need to back off, slow it down, don't move so far. This should feel good and juicy, not painful. Once we get about 5 of those on each side, roll over onto our back. Feet are going to come flat to the floor. We're going to make nice big C shapes with our hands, thumbs in the back, index fingers in the front, hands between the rib cage and the hip bone in that nice meaty section. And we're going to get back into our crocodile breath. Nice inhale through the nose, filling up that abdominal wall. Exhale, feel that navel draw into the spine. Allow the hands to clench down a little bit to create more resistance to fill up that balloon. And with each breath, see if you can expand that balloon a little bit wider. Start to notice that tension in the shoulders and neck. You can breathe into the tension, and on the exhale, allow that tension to melt onto the floor. And then on the next breath, see if you can inflate that abdominal wall without activating the tension in the shoulders. So each breath in, notice tension, exhale, release tension. The next breath, see if you can inflate with less tension. Allow the hands to drop down, palms up. Let those shoulders relax even more. Start to bring that breath up into the ribs, chest, neck, and shoulder. Again, imagine you're filling up a balloon, feeling it expand in all directions on the inhale. And on the exhale, allow any tension that you feel build up, release into the floor. Just let it melt. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and very slowly sit up. Make sure you're not dizzy or lightheaded before you go from a sit up to a standing position.